So anyway, the killer comes popping out of the maintenance shaft, and it is all like, oh, booga, 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 and taps the guard on the shoulder. Huge guard turns around, and the killer just like, and this guard, like I said, is not small. Killer just reaches up and is like, ah, bam, motherfucker, and turns his head all the way around. Like, not it all the way around. That was a pretty good effect, by the way. So anyway, I'm like, holy shit. And guard falls. Killer's like, okay, picks up his keys, walks over. He's like, woo, hello, Kieran, woo, and unlocks the cell. Kieran comes walking out, and Kieran's like, you're not going to kill me, being that my hands are like handcuffed right now, and you're a killer, and you just murdered the hell out of a police officer. But I'm cool, right? And the killer's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Come on out. He's like, okay, that sounds good. So Kieran walks out and says something interesting. He's like, oh, so you kept your word. Now are you going to tell me who you are? And the killer's like, of course I am. Of course I'm going to hold up my side of the and like slits his throat and just blood starts going everywhere. And Kieran's like, oh my God, you told me you weren't going to kill me the second I got out of the cell. And the killer's like, I kill people, motherfucker. I'm a liar too. So sue me. So anyway, Kieran starts going for the gun and the killer just for good measure stabs him in the back of the neck. Boom, boom, ah, scream. Hey guys, this is Mike, and welcome back to Fright Flicks. We are here to talk about the 2 hour Halloween special of MTV Scream. Holy shit, it is good to be back, isn't it? Before we get into the recap, all that stuff of the Halloween special, I just wanted to go over some of the news we've heard from Scream in the last few days. The biggest, of course, is that there is going to be a season 3. This is really cool. I like to think it's because of all these petitions online that the fans, all of us have been signing, that they were like, okay, fine, you guys just shut up. We'll give you another season. But the thing about it is it's only going to be 6 episodes. So, unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to cut it, that means that this is going to be the last season. I guess something could save it, but more than likely, this is going to be the last season. They're going to give all of us fans 6 episodes so they don't have to spend too much money to wrap up all the storylines and give us somewhat of a conclusion to everything. Whatever, hell, I'll take it. That's all fine. Very much looking forward to that. I guess that'll start airing next summer. I will be back to talk about that once that starts airing. One little thing, I just want to kind of apologize to anybody who I might not have been answering comments, this, that, the other. I've been really busy making my first movie. It is now basically finished, just doing a sound mix on it, and the trailer just got posted, which you can check out right after you check out this. So make sure you check it out. Echo River trailer. Pretty epic, pretty cool. Let's get right into this MTV 2 hour Halloween special. So this episode, I guess you call it episode, the special was written in 2 parts, it says in the credits. Part 1 was written by Brian Seavey, who we all know as aka Emma Duval. And then episode 2 was written by Egon O'Donnell. He wrote part 2, and then both parts were directed by Oz Scott. Okay, so jumping right into it, we open on Kieran is on trial. And this part is pretty chilling because the judge is just saying stuff like, I am appalled at the utter inhumanity of being able to murder dozens of people and yada yada yada. And Kieran's just fucking dead stare. Like it almost looked like he was about to smile, but I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. I was just reading too much into it. But freaky stuff. Then we go right into what we all saw as the promo at the end of the last episode of last season. Kieran gets put into the holding cell. Kieran looks up, sees the killer. He's like, he turns to the guard, the big guard, and he's like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And the guy's like, oh, I kissed my ass. And then the killer's like, don't worry, Kieran, I'll take care of this for you. Jumps out of the like maintenance shaft above the prison cell, whatever, who cares? I guess those exist. This is unfortunate because, not only do I really like Kieran, and so it was really a shame to see him go, but it worries me just because it's like, come on, writers, you're better than this. Like, that was an opportunity to do some really cool stuff. Like Kieran being in jail and having to be interviewed and going through the trials of it and all this stuff that we never get to see in slashers you just got rid of for another just kill. I hate to complain, but that was actually kind of lame. Maybe 6 episodes, there wasn't enough room for him. What are you going to do? But the whole killer in the cell thing that I've been talking about forever, which is what I wish would happen with Noah, that Noah was revealed to be the killer, gets locked up, and then Hannibal Lecter helps to solve the case the next season. Son of a bitch. Scream Queens is doing that this season. Son of a bitch. Like, they're not even being subtle about it. Like, it's totally a Hannibal Lecter thing, but son of a bitch. Stealing my ideas, Scream Queens. Not that I think they literally are, but at the same time, ugh. I am watching Scream Queens, by the way. I'm doing written reviews of it just because it's a lot to keep up with. And I don't mean to be a prick, but they kind of screwed us on the mystery last time. So you guys know how I am. I get way too in-depth with stuff, so I'm not going to be doing killer theories for that because it's not worth it just for, in the end, the killer to take off the mask and be like, I'm Hester again this time. Surprised you. Be like, fuck, kill you. So, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Not to talk about Scream Queens too much, but my final killer theory already for season 2 is that it's Zayday. Yes, I think it's Zayday. Anyway, maybe I'll go into that more in the reviews. Check for those. Those will always be on the Fright Flicks Facebook. So anyway, back to Scream. Then right after that, we go straight into Emma and her hot mom drama. You guys know how I feel about this. I'm just going to skip by all of the drama in this episode. And there's a lot of drama in this episode. We're just going to skip right on by this shit. But basically, the gist of it is that Emma's hot mom is like, you need to go to college. And Emma's like, I don't want to go to college. And she's like, you need to go to college. And she's like, I don't want to go to college. So blah, blah, blah. And then great, Brooke shows up. Yay, Brooke. So fucking happy to see Brooke again. So anyway, Brooke shows up and she tells Emma, she's like, oh, Emma, I'm so sorry. I hope you don't feel bad. And Emma's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, you don't know? How could you possibly not know in this age of social media, especially since you were just on your phone, that Kieran was killed? And Emma's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And Emma's basically, I can't help it. Emma's basically like, oh my God, Kieran let himself get murdered, and he didn't even say goodbye to me first. Wait for it. I feel so betrayed. I'm sorry, couldn't help it. Jesus. Oh, God. And you got, oh, man. How many of you guys out there are watching this episode and when she's sitting on the stairs with fucking Kieran's clone later and she's telling him about Brandon James and all this bullshit? Thank God they cut away from that. We didn't have to hear her fucking talk any much longer than we already did. So she's sitting there talking to, like, not the Kieran's clone. And we come in at the very end and she's like, basically at the end of that long story. And the guy didn't fall asleep, good for him. But she's like, at the end of that long story, the gist of it is, I felt so betrayed. I was like, son of a bitch. Like, thank you. I'm glad it was in there. I really am, because that shit, like, it makes me happy nowadays to hear stank-ass Emma saying that again. Brings me back to good old times, like 2 months ago, when that was like, my kryptonite. But anyway, so I thought that was pretty cool. She brings it up. So let's get back to this stuff because this is getting ridiculous. Okay, so Noah and Stavo wrote a popular graphic novel. They have this book manager now, and he's like, I want book 2. But Noah evidently has writer's block, which we find out later is survivor's guilt, which he gets over. But anyway, the manager's like, I want another book, and I think it should be about the legend of Anna Hobbs. Which, if any of you guys watch the show Hannibal, wasn't season 1 the girl's name Annabelle Hobbs? I believe it was. I'm like, Scream, come on, be a little bit more creative with your name choices. Anyway, again, don't mean to complain, but ugh. And Noah's like, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. And Stavo's like, well, the facts are awesome. And then he tells the story about, like, how this really, like, hot chick back in, it looks like, I don't know, 1800s. The time period was hard to pin down. But anyway, so this hot chick one night decides to get butt naked and grab some gardening shears and put on this creepy ass, like, scarecrow bag thing. And again, key point, butt naked, proceeds to go around and just stab the absolute ass off everybody on this island. Hence the island is now called Murder Island instead of Butt Naked Hot Girl Killing People Island, which is what I would have called it. But anyway, so he's like, I want to send you guys there and I'm paying for it all, so, let's go. I promise I'm not the killer. Then we cut to Emma and she was walking with Brooke. Of course, Brooke. Emma and Brooke are walking, and the media is all like, hey, did you know Killen was the killer, and how do you feel about all this, and da-da-da-da-da, and Emma's like, leave me alone, I hate you. We find out that it's 8 months later, yada, yada, yada. They go into the school hallway, they're talking to everybody, all of the main cast gets back together, and Emma's like, I hate it here, I don't want to be here anymore, it's too safe, I want to go somewhere. And Noah, fucking Noah, even the writers made Noah a little bit silly in this episode. But anyway, Noah's like, hey, well, you want to get away from all this? You want to go to a secluded island where there's no help of rescue and we probably won't be able to find a CB radio or anything like that. You want to come out there? And she's like, that sounds like a great idea. She went, I'm so down. I'm like, fuck you, Emma. Just leave her ass behind. Like, I would have been so happy if that's what would have happened. Everybody gets in that little dinky seaplane, puts on their fucking ear muff bullshit so they can talk to each other. They all fly off to this awesome thing and they all look down and Emma's on the dock like, wait, you forgot me. Everybody just laughs all the way to this island and I would have laughed with them and Emma just has to stay on the dock, you know? I'm not going to say it, but you know what she's thinking to herself. Before all that, they get to the island. We find out Audrey has a new girlfriend named Gina, and she gives a shout out to Ouija 2, which you guys might not be too excited about because the first Ouija sucks balls. But I'm really excited for Ouija 2, Origin of Evil. But I am actually excited about it because it's directed by Mike Flanagan, who is like one of my top favorite, if not my top favorite modern horror movie director. He did Hush, which if you haven't seen that, it's on Netflix and it is badass. And he did Absentia, which is badass, and Oculus, which is probably the one you've seen from him. And right now you're thinking, oh yeah, that's cool because Oculus was badass. Anyway, so it's from him, so make sure you check out Ouija 2, Origin of Evil, but if it ends up sucking, don't blame me. And so this Gina chick, she's like, oh, I can't go to Spooky Island, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then they get to Murder Island, and Audrey's walking around, and she's like, oh, it's so nice here, I love it. And Emma's like, I don't want to talk about Kieran. And Audrey's like, holy shit, what the fuck? Emma, what are you doing here? I thought we left your ass back on the dock. She's like, no, I made it on the plane. She's like, oh, God. Now I got it. All right, just try and keep up, Emma. Emma's like, and looks over and sees it's a bait shop / tattoo parlor. Yeah, that sounds sanitary. Emma's like, I want a tattoo. And Audrey's like, just, yeah, whatever. Just as long as it'll shut you up. Like, yeah, let's go get a tattoo. So they walk in, they go get a tattoo. So she's looking through the book and Audrey's like, oh, thank God, and runs away. So then out of the bookshelves or whatever, this guy comes walking out who looks just fucking like Kieran. He's like Kieran's clone. And I'm like, don't do it, show. Don't fucking do it, show. And okay, granted, he doesn't look exactly like Kieran, but if you like squinted at the screen or like, you know, saw their silhouettes, you'd be like, oh, that's fucking Kieran. And you'd be like, nope, that's not Kieran. This is Tate or Kevin or some shit, whatever his fucking name is. But he looks just like Kieran. So just like Kieran comes walking out of the bookshelves. And Emma's like, oh my God, you're cute. What tattoo should I get? And he says some shit. He's like, oh, Carpe Diem or some shit. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to accidentally take your bag, whatever. And so Emma chases after him and she's like, you took my pastries. And he's like, oh, you took my bait. And she's like, oh, that's so sweet. Oh my God, you're cute. I want your number. Give me kisses. And he's like, no, I just met you, but if you want to, I'll feed you some fish later. She's like, sounds good. And Audrey's like, Emma, didn't you forget something in the store? And Emma's like, no. And she's like, yeah, you forgot to, you know, get your tattoo. And Emma's like, oh, I don't want it anymore. And we cut to some actually interesting stuff, which is Noah Stavo, the book manager, and they're with this old guy in this like rickety fish shop, bait shop, tattoo shop, and museum, evidently. So anyway, there's this museum to like this Anna Hobbs chick, and there's like a mask, and there's these gardening shears and all this kind of stuff, and they talk about like, oh, this is the history of it, and booga booga booga. And Noah's like, this is still bullshit, and nobody gives a shit, and let's get back to the Brandon James stuff. And one of the characters is like, no, this is more interesting than Brandon James, which is what we all care about in the first place. Let's do this side plot. Anyway, and Noah's like, oh, God, all right, fine, I'll be in this special. I mean, do what you ask. They look at everything, they're like, can we have this stuff that's, you know, historic? And the guy who runs the place, this old man, he's like, no, you can't have that stuff, it's historic. And they're like, oh, you're a dick. And they leave. And then him and his old ass cell phone, he hears the glass shattering after they leave. So he goes out and he's like, he looks down and the shears are gone. And it's literally like the Anna Hobbs murder weapon. And then it's gone. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Turns around and gets the shears right in the neck. We cut back to Noah, thank God. Stavo, who I like Stavo now, and book manager. So they go to find Billy the caretaker. And there were some pretty good shout outs to like Friday the 13th and stuff. And Noah's like, oh, the caretaker's going to be this cantankerous old man. He's going to tell us to get off his lawn with a rake and blah, blah. And they turn around and it's this hot chick in like rolled up sleeves, basically. And she's like slightly dirty. And she's like, hi, I'm hot. What do you want? And they're like, oh my God, wow, that is so weird that a hot chick could possibly know how to garden and maintain a property. Like, that's so strange. And Stavo's like, oh, this is a good opportunity because me and Brooke's hot ass haven't been getting along. I'm going to hit on this chick who's not nearly as hot as Brooke and use that to get across on Brooke. Drama, 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 drama. Anyway, so not as hot as Brooke says, yeah, sure, I'll come to your party later in the night, blah, blah, blah. And whatever. So she comes to the party later and she tells this whole campfire story about what really happened with the legend of Annabelle Hobbs. And again, it includes butt nakedness and a whole bunch of killing, and it's cool and has some style to it, whatever. The book manager comes jumping out of the woods and he's all like, with this crappy ass mask, and he gets yelled at by Emma, and she's like, don't do that kind of shit, I'll kill you. Stavo takes Not As Hot As Brooke home, and he's like, oh, I can't do this. She's like, come on inside, I'm gonna kiss you. He's like, no, Brooke's so much hotter than you. I can't do this. And she's like, fine, just go home then. So she walks into her house and gets the shit murdered out of her by a scarecrow looking dude with the Annabelle Hobbs shears or whatever, kicks her through a door, slits her throat, all this kind of crazy shit. And then we cut to Emma. Emma's inside her little bungalow and she gets a phone call. I'm like, yeah, bring it on, do it, do it. And sure as shit, it's like, hello, Emma. You can't get rid of me. Ever. I'm like, yeah, bring on the pain. It's Brandon James. Come back to whoop some ass, yeah. And just like Casey Becker with the same windows and all types of shit, the killer's like, turn on your back light. And Emma's like, oh my God, I don't want to. He's like, turn it on. And she's like, okay. So she turns on the light, and Not As Hot As Brooke is just like gore, like cut up, like laid out in a chair. Emma's like, oh my God, scream. And then I believe that was the end of the first part of this two-part Halloween special. So I will be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock with the part 2 of the two-part Halloween special. Remember to follow us on Facebook. I'm spending most of my time on there recently just because the comments on YouTube and Twitter, for the most part, have all gotten just kind of crazy. So if you want to read the reviews of Scream Queens and just basically keep up a little bit more with me, go ahead and follow Fright Flicks on Facebook, and we can have some further discussions there. So I will see you tomorrow night. Later on, guys.